Welcome back to the Peace of Living podcast. We're your hosts, Allison
and Jason.
And we are so excited tonight. I'm very, very excited because we have a very special guest with us. And Jason, I think it'd be appropriate if you introduced her.
So on the podcast tonight, we have Maddy Fisher, one of my former students from Brighton Seminary, now one of my institute students for the time that she's been here. And Maddy is an incredible person. I adored teaching her in high school, seminary, but I'll just tell you what, like Maddy, she was amazing then. She's even better now. And she's been away for the last couple of years at SVU, Southern Virginia University, which has a church association too, which is pretty cool. Close to my mission. I need to go out and visit sometime because it's just I just love out east. But so Maddy's been here for the last few months, semester, months.
So I've been here since midway through September.
Excellent.
Got home. Yeah.
And so she's been home and she's been able to attend this institute class that we've been having, which has been awesome. But I owe a lot to Maddy for making that class so incredible. And as you'll hear tonight, every time Maddy speaks, the Spirit just is so powerful. And she's had some really cool experiences. I know she's had some challenges out at SVU and just personally, but she's had some amazing experiences really getting the gospel just to be her thing, especially with the temple. And so we wanted to bring her on tonight because she's leaving home on Thursday. She's sacrificed one of her evenings here to be with us in our little old home here in Bountiful.
Hardly a sacrifice. Come on. I love it.
So we're just so excited to have her. And so we just wanted to have her on and just kind of have her share her testimony and her witness, especially of just Jesus Christ and his gospel. And we just hope and pray that you can just feel his love through her and us tonight, but especially through Maddy, because she has such a great testimony, and we love having you, Maddy. So Maddy, why don't we start off? Just tell us if I missed, I know I missed a lot, but just tell us a little bit about yourself and just how things have been and how, your experience at SVU. But we really want to get into, how your faith has developed and maybe what's caused you to trust in God most of these last few years, how the temple's become your thing. So why don't you just go for it? We'll kind of just engage in conversation along the way. And anyway,
cool.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. Hi, guys. I just want to say thank you. Quite the introduction. No, you undersell yourself. You are amazing.
Oh.
You guys have no idea. I mean, anyone who's listened to the podcast knows how awesome these guys are. But this institute class has been a blessing in my life, and I'm so grateful for that and the opportunities I've had being home for these past few months. I feel better than ever to go back to school and start this new year. And I'm just so excited and so grateful to be here and for this class and all the opportunities. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, that class has been a huge blessing in both of our lives, and it's the highlight of my week. And if anybody is listening that hasn't come, you should come. Last week we had 81 kids there. And I mean, the Spirit's pretty strong. And again, it's not so much the things that I think that I'm saying. It's really just comments from Maddy and other kids that are there. It's just so powerful. So thank you for... Oh, and if you want to come, come. I just assume you guys know, but it's at the Brighton Seminary building in Cottonwood Heights. And we usually have some sort of food at 6:30. And then the lesson starts at 7, and anybody is welcome to attend. So anyway, sorry,
it's Maddy. Awesome. Don't apologize. You're great. But yeah, you summed it up pretty well. This will be my junior year at SVU going back. But took the semester off, been living at home, and, a lot has happened, especially in the past year, just where my life's led. And I'm so grateful for these opportunities. And I never thought I'd be taking a semester off. I was just telling you guys earlier, big planner. I stress a lot about the future and like to think ahead and like to have a clear image and the step-by-step process. And that quickly shifted. And I really don't think I would have been able to be as self-aware as I have been had I not gone through the temple. And so I guess I'll kind of cut into that a little bit. I decided to go through August of 2021. First, kind of discussions of temple. I had never really thought about the temple besides, I was born and raised in the church, talk about go to the temple, get married in the temple and sealed, and didn't really know anything beyond that that's where I wanted to go. And, but for whatever reason, it was really heavy on my mind, just thinking about the temple. And I mean, I had a boyfriend at the time who was preparing for a mission, and he made a comment to me in that semester in the spring of 2021. And he told me, he's like, Maddy, I just can't wait for you to go through the temple, and I hope to be there when you do. And that was like the first time I had ever thought about me going through the temple, like just for me kind of thing. And so he kind of put that in my mind, and I thought about it that whole summer and just hearing his experience going through, and friends, and one of my best friends, who's actually one of my housemates right now, Alyssa, is amazing. And she decided to just go through because she felt like it was the time for her to do it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And, she was my tennis team captain, and she was my RA for a little bit. And so she was always someone I looked up to. And seeing that she just went through because she felt like it was the right time for her. She wasn't dating anyone. She wasn't going on a mission. She had a year left of school, just, kind of going through the motions. And she felt the temple was where she needed to be. And so I went back to school that fall. Missionary gone. My brothers graduated because we went to school together. And it was kind of like, oh, what is my life? Like, everything's different. But kind of the temple, kind of a thought at the back of my mind. And it was the fifth Sunday, and usually fifth Sundays, the bishopric gives a lesson. And so it was the new YSA, and Alyssa was in my ward, and the discussion was about temples. And he asked Alyssa to bear testimony about the temple and why she chose to go through. And in that, she shared a scripture that stuck out to me, and I'll share why that's more important later too. But it was Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. And it says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." And she shared this and talked about her experience in the temple. And that Sunday, we went back to my house, Alyssa came over, made cookies, and I just told my friends, I need to go to the temple.
Wow.
Really just powerful. And I remember one of my best friends who's married now, crazy. She went through the temple. She decided a similar time to go through. But her cousin had just gotten home from a mission, and he was there, and he's like, "No way, Maddy, that's so awesome."
Yeah.
And it was just really cool to be surrounded by people and peers that were just so accepting and loving of this thought to go to the temple. Like, that was just so cool to be surrounded by young adults that want that, have that same goal.
It's cool.
Anyway, so that scripture I share, obviously it stuck out to me in that meeting, but I went to my patriarchal blessing within that week because I was pondering, wanting to go through the temple, and thought that, like, I should read my patriarchal blessing and see if that kind of helps guide me with what I need to do. And in the first paragraph, says that exact scripture.
Wow.
Those two verses.
Wow. First paragraph.
And I am a very emotional person, heart on my sleeve, just lost it because I was like, oh my gosh, if that's not an answer to prayer and what I need to be doing, that I'm crazy. Mm-hmm. So anyway, from that moment forward in August, I was like, temple's where I'm going. I'm going to take temple prep classes. Got a meeting with my bishop. I set it all up far ahead because I knew I wouldn't be able to make it through until the summer because school and across the country, you don't really get time to come back. And I wanted it to be a family gathering and have people around. So yeah, I spent that whole year kind of preparing for the temple, and having that at the back of my mind made a huge influence in my life, and a huge testimony builder as well, and kind of redirected my focus in what I was doing day to day. I mean, I was in really good habit, not as good now, but really good about reading my scriptures every day and just praying every day. And just like, there's just like a spiritually heightened experience just that whole year of just being surrounded by great people and just living in a great house with great housemates. And just having that thought was just so impactful and helpful in that school year, and helped me to kind of face the challenges of having a boyfriend on a mission and kind of being away from home and all that fun stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the backstory to why I chose to go through in the first place. Yeah, where to go from now, but
Well, yeah, I think that I just wanted to comment, like, I think that's amazing. Like that even just, I think that's a lesson for all of us, whether we're preparing to go through for the first time or even preparing, like, that's a great lesson, even preparing if we're going to go like this week, right? Like I love how you said that even preparing to go to the mission, to the temple, lots of things. Yeah. I don't know, Maddy. I don't know.
Asking.
Oh, it's so funny. But even just preparing to go to the temple, like, created like a spiritually heightened time of your life.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And I think, I mean, obviously going to the temple and experiencing it there is incredible. Just even the preparation can be an experience in and of itself that builds your testimony.
Absolutely.
So I just thought that was cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so special. I have so many friends, and we were just talking about this. It'd be just the housemates I have and the spirit we carried just day to day brought a spirit to our home. And, we're silly young adult, like, college sophomores, we're goofy and fun, but like somehow, no matter what we were doing, having a dance party or just cooking or watching a movie or whatever, somehow a discussion with any friend that came over would shift to Christ. And it was just really cool. And I didn't fully grasp the impact of that until that institute lesson. Because I was thinking about, okay, I want to comment because I'm feeling the spirit. And I was thinking about my experience going through the temple and how that impacted me to be here. And all of a sudden it hit me, whoa, how about all the experiences that led up to before that and how that impacted my life and those around me as well. And so it was really cool to grow that way independently, but with a great group of friends, and watch friends go through the temple and take temple trips, even in preparation to like getting endowed, just doing baptisms or whatever. And even being in small town Buena Vista, if anyone knows, it's the middle of nowhere. So you got to drive a little bit out of your way to go find a temple, and having friends that wanted to do that was awesome. So it was a really special time doing that.
Again, I just think it's cool, just the symbolism. I mean, we talked about in one of our podcast episodes how, I mean, the temple, it's not like the temple has like any power in and of itself. It has power because it's Jesus Christ's house. Right. And like that just, I mean, you're just reaffirming like what we've studied and what we hear, and just that, and just even seeking after him, and literally, like you said, going out of your way to get there. Right. Like going out of your way to get Jesus. That's what it really is, symbolically, getting Jesus into your life. It changes everything. And that you can still be the fun sophomore, goofing off, having fun. Like, but it's like, you don't have to change all that. But like, man, just that little bit of effort to put him in your life and going out of your way for him. It like, I mean, it just changes. It just changes everything. Yeah. And there's no going back after that, right?
Right.
Well, and I really liked what you said about just with your friends, how you would eventually always have these conversations about Jesus. And to echo what you said, like, again, we sometimes treat the temple as like this end all be all of our religious existence. Like once you get there, you've made it, right? Right. And it obviously, I don't want to downplay like the sacredness of the temple, because what goes on there is essential to our salvation, right? And so it's super important, but Jason nailed it on the head that it's essentially like the whole goal of the temple is to help you become more like Christ. And so that's what's so cool, is hearing you talk about your preparations of going to the temple and how you and your friends are doing that. You're living it. And that's like, sure, when you're going to the building, but also just in your everyday life. Yeah. So I'm inspired by that. Thank you.
It's really cool hearing you say that too, because I've loved listening to your podcast and the focus of Christ. I mean, I told Jason, like, I started listening to your podcast after the first Institute class I attended. And I was like, your guys' podcast is awesome. Like, I came in just like, shout out to the podcast with every comment I had. Because it kind of just correlated with everything that was on my mind because it was just fresh there. But one of the first things you said in the first episode was just your testimony being so Christ-centered. And that stuck out to me because that's so much of my testimony and how I've progressed is how can I be more like Christ? How can I be like more like him? And I was like, Jason, your wife's amazing. I said, I can't wait to meet her because it's so cool to hear that because that's kind of how I've navigated through this year, trying to redirect my focus on Christ and hearing you bear your testimony of Christ and striving to be like him was awesome. And to hear that and hear your guys' testimony has been such a huge testimony builder for me and a strength during this weird time of life, but it's been really good. So thank you.
Thank you. I remember that. I think it was the first episode, as if that's what you're referring to.
Right.
And that several people have commented on that when Allie kind of bore her testimony because it was very powerful.
Yeah.
And it made me think, like, something Allie brought up even during the Christmas time was the line from, what was it? Anyway, it's the line from the Christmas. I kept blanking on it, but it's the one where the hopes and fears of all the years lie in thee tonight.
Little town of Bethlehem.
Yeah, little town of Bethlehem, right? Yeah, are in thee tonight. And like, just that is Jesus. Like I spoke in a ward here in the state yesterday, and there was a girl there that we had gone to high school together, and she's in that ward, which is cool. It's cool to see her, but she comes up after, and we were kind of talking about how, you know, we've seen a lot of friends kind of walk away for a while and from the church and come back or whatever. And we were talking just like, you know, everybody goes on some pretty crazy life journeys. Right. It's so unexpected and the challenges that come. But the thing that we were talking about is like, we've seen people leave, but then nobody goes and joins another church. Maybe we'll talk about this in another podcast episode.
Yeah.
And that honestly, it's like, that is what's most concerning to me because you've left the church, but really I don't know if you've realized it, but you're leaving him.
Right.
You're leaving him and he is, and we talked about this just in the Hope of Christmas episode, like he is the only hope we have for all of your dreams to come true. Yeah. He is it. It doesn't happen any other way. Right. Without him, all of my greatest fears are realized. And there's nothing I could do to stop it. Yeah. And it's because of him that they won't happen. And that's worth anything to me to work for, to keep covenants for, and to follow, because I want those dreams to come true. I don't want my greatest fears to be realized. And it's only because of him that it will. But yeah, it's just, we have to have him at the center. That, like, the sole purpose of this podcast is to bring more of his peace, more of his joy into our lives, because there is no other lasting peace. There is no other joy. We've talked about that in the podcast before, like Chronicles of Narnia. I need a drink. I'm scared. I don't want to drink from this stream. Well, there is no other stream. Right. It's this one. And if you do drink from it, you'll never thirst again. I know it's scary, but just drink from it. And
with that, I mean, it's a consistent effort too. Yeah. That's the thing, is like, I even noticed just from, we went on vacation a couple weeks ago, and, you know, like your scripture study habits and usual things tend to kind of drop when you're outside of your usual schedule. And Pop-Tarts for breakfast. You did. I didn't have the Pop-Tarts. But
going wild over here.
But it was so interesting to me to note the difference, even from that, of like subtle negative feelings would creep into the day, and like I'd be a little bit less patient with the kids and like a little more negative minded. I don't know, like some really, really like subtle things would creep up on me. I just said that, but I'll say it again for repetition's sake. It was very subtle, and they would creep up. Creepily, subtly. Oh boy, we can edit all this out.
Love it. No, I love it.
But like even so, this week, this morning was the first time in a while, kind of embarrassed to say, that I got up like early enough to do some like actual significant scripture study before my kids were awake. Because lately it's been like the alarm goes off, I'm hitting snooze, snooze,
Right.
snooze. And then like I pull up my scriptures and read like a verse and then go back to sleep. And so I forced myself to get up this morning because I'm like, look, I need to get back into a good routine. And so I guess my point in bringing this up is like, not to like pat ourselves on the back and be like, we've figured it out. And if
Right.
people would just do what we do, because like, no, it does take consistent effort, and you have to keep trying to make Jesus the center of your life, because the world is going to distract you.
Oh, it's fighting against you.
Absolutely. That's Satan's number one tool, right? Like whether it's, we were talking about this earlier, whether it's your phone with social media, whether it's like, I don't know, anything else that's going on in life, entertainment, music, whatever it might be. Right. There's so many things that can just subtly and creepily knock you off that path that you just have to constantly be on your guard. So I guess this is my open confession to everybody who's listening that like I'm just getting back on the horse myself, and
we're all
doing the best we can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just going off that, and I want to ask Maddy a question, but like, if people are like, man, teaching seminary, that's got to be the best job, and it is the best job in the world, but I don't know if people really realize how difficult it is, because you have to be on it all the time.
Oh my gosh.
You have to be prepared. You've got to be dialed in, hopefully, to that spiritual frequency where I've got 80 kids showing up on Wednesday night. They've got to leave feeling on fire.
Well, and think about all the different types of kids that you're teaching too. Because it's beyond 80. You're teaching how many classes? 5 classes a day?
Yeah.
It's, preparing
tons.
lessons daily to do that. And I had a talk with my dad, because telling him about you guys and my parents about how many, I come home every Wednesday, spiritual high, seriously. But just telling him about like the interactions I've had in class, it was especially right after meeting you for the first time, Allie, and just like talking about how awesome it was and the lesson. And my dad just looked at me, he's like, that is amazing. This guy is awesome. You know how hard that is? Because that is so hard. I mean,
it is.
Teaching the gospel, because everyone interprets it in their own way. Everyone has their own testimony, builds it in their own circumstances, has their own trials, own life stories, that everyone's different. And you have such a gift to help do it in a way that's not like, okay, this is what's right, that's what's wrong. You're doing things right, and you could improve a little bit, like you're really good about helping everyone feel welcome and in like creating a discussion-based, spiritual-filled environment. And it's really, really special.
Well, seriously, thank you, Maddy. And like, I think at the end of the day, with this job and like with like getting to what Ali was saying, studying, and what Maddy's saying, like, I feel like God like has like saved me out of like, he's like got me in his clutches and like saved me out of like my own selfish desires, because like I feel like more than anything, I hope that the kids feel blessed by my classes, but like this job really is so much for me. Like it forces me to be in that spiritual frequency all the time, in as much as I can. I strive to be all the time. And I feel very, very blessed. And it's just like, he's just so generous too. Yeah. He's so generous. Like we even like just, maybe I don't have as much time to like I prepped that last lesson last week, literally 2 hours before class.
Awesome.
And it was just like, I was just like, I didn't know what to do. I was just putting down notes. I was like, oh, I don't know. I hope this is what they need. and he just does that though. He takes the 5 loaves, he blesses it and multiplies it. Like he's just so generous with our efforts. Yeah. And I'm sure, like, I know you've seen that, like your preparation going to the temple and SVU and everything. And I don't know all that's going on, but I know that you've like trying to figure out your schedule and like the plan for your life and everything. Like, how has like he helped you sense the temple, like kind of make sense of that and gain clarity? And like you said a couple of times, like it is going and preparing and being at the temple and with him that's brought me here right now. Yeah. Like, tell me that story.
Yeah.
Tell me that story.
No, that's such a great question. I am so grateful for the temple, and to get to that point and have that desire and go through, it was awesome. I mean, days before, weeks before, a lot of my family was like, are you sure you want to do this? It's like a big, scary decision. I mean, even temple prep, amazing temple prep teachers. But a lot of the lessons were like, if it's weird, it's okay. Like, I got prepped kind of for the worst. And going through, the best way to describe it is, yes, it was a different experience, but it was so familiar. These are all teachings I've learned my whole life. But through that, the temple brought so much clarity and peace in my life. And I loved initiatories. The first time doing initiatories, hearing those words, like said to me, Madeline Nicole Fisher, for the first time, I fully grasped, I am a daughter of God. And he knows me. He knows every inch of my being. And there's no doubt that he loves me. And that helped me to be the most self-aware of I had ever been, and more confident in myself and who I was, what I was doing, what I wanted to be doing with my life, and where I was going. And just allowing myself to trust him and know that he knows me perfectly. So he will never lead me astray, or anyone. And fully kind of letting him take the reins and following along and feeling those good instincts and feeling the Spirit has really helped me in trying to navigate the struggles I've faced, and asking about, like you said, the decision to be here now. I did 3 semesters in a row, fall, spring, summer. I was like getting the generals out of the way. I was like, we got this. And mentioned, invested in a house with my parents in Virginia to live in. Became a fixer-upper in way more ways than we ever prepared for. And so it was really hard living, doing 8 credits. I was like beyond the credit level. And my car broke down, so I didn't have a car. I was living off campus, so I'd have to walk up or Zoom into classes, and then having all these projects. So I was kind of managing the house, being kind of constructing what was going on, being the contractor of the house. And it was also hard and stressful because a lot of these people working on the house were my peers, because we hired my old landlord, who is big name in BV, small town. So a lot of these workers were college students. So it was amazing work, but stressful to watch it sometimes, because it's like, okay, let's go. Are you sure that's right? You know? And like being in Troll, it's like so just stress inducing, and then trying to pass my classes and walking around. I mean, the only grocery store I had was a Dollar General down the street. And so it's like trying to live in a new house that has all these problems and bugs everywhere. And just, it was a stressful time. And it was right before I was going through the temple, and just like things were heightened. And so, I was burnt out. I came home. I was so excited to go through the temple. It was awesome. And then right back to school. And it was so hard. For the first time leaving home, just so sad. It was so hard for me to leave. And I had never struggled with that. I've loved SVU, and I've always been just so eager and excited, like, okay, see you guys. See you next year, kind of thing. And so we had Father's blessings right before school started, and my dad's like, so what do you want me to help you with? And I just broke down, and I said, please help me to feel better, just to have some direction in what I'm doing. And so really just kind of heartbroken to leave home. And I'd never had that. I've always been independent, always kind of, do your own thing. You'll do great. Follow the path, follow the plan. Everything will work out. And it was really hard. And so I went out to school and I had a full schedule. I was start the day 8 a.m., not get home until 9 p.m. Because it was just go, go, go. I had 15-minute increments to go home to grab a snack. That's all I had in the day. And so it got to a point every single night, being in Virginia, a place I loved, I'd call my mom waiting outside my house and just cry. And every time she'd be like, Maddie, what's wrong? I'd be like, I don't know, I'm just crying. And she's like, okay. But just every day, day after day, doing that. And kind of had a moment where I was hanging out with my friends. And like I said, dance parties, I love going, having a good social time, and school had a dance. And usually all our friends are always like super pumped, go in, we're the life of the party. No one's dancing, but we are, and I was standing outside looking at all the students hanging out and was like, I feel numb.
Oh, man.
And I've never felt like that.
Yeah. And
so I was just struggling because I was, okay, you're the happy, fun girl that people think is so loud and fun at activities, but we're going to keep pushing. But I was just really having this internal struggle that I was trying to shove down because I was sticking to the plan. But I had this moment on the phone with my mom and just crying. And I just didn't have the energy to do anything that day. I laid in bed. I went to Institute actually, and I walked in and I saw my Institute teacher, who was also my stake president. I saw him. He said, hey, how you doing? Good. Set my backpack down, cried, went to the bathroom and cried.
Oh.
And it just was like, what is going on? Like, this class that I look forward to, these people I love, these classes I'm excited about, like, for whatever reason, I just have no feeling, no motivation, nothing. And it was just really weird funk. I went home that day and just slept. And so called my mom, like I said, crying, and ended that phone call and decided to read my patriarchal blessing again, which I turn to all the time. I love patriarchal blessings. If you don't have one, I highly encourage it. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I turned to it and just felt strongly this feeling, maybe I need to go home, which had never been on my radar. And I remember I said it for the first time out loud. I sent my missionary a little video or a voice memo and was like, I don't know why, but I feel this strong need that I need to be home right now. And he just hardened my message because it was in the middle of his week, so I couldn't do anything. And I called my mom and said that same thing to her. And she just so calmly said to me, I have felt this yesterday. I was thinking about telling you that same thing, but I knew you needed to come to this on your own terms, which I was so grateful for, because if my mom had said it first, I'd probably been like, no, Mom, I'm fine, like, you don't know me. But I'm so grateful. Yeah, so grateful for her to be so patient with me, calling her every day, multiple times a day, just sobbing. Like that'd be hard. I mean, thank you, Mom, for being so patient with me to just, I just cry. And so for her to be able to let me come to that decision was awesome. And so timing was amazing. The next day was the last day for Adder Drop. And SVU is such a small school. I have personal contact with all my teachers and advisors. So I sent a quick text to my academic advisor and said, hey, can we do a meeting? How soon can you meet? Had an 8 a.m. meeting the next day. I said, awesome. So I met with him and he just looked at me. He's one of my favorite teachers, Professor Batis, big, tall guy, gentle giant. He's amazing. And I walked in his office and he just looked at me and I lost it. And he's like, what do you need? And I said, I think I need to go home. And he said, all right, what can I do to help you? And usually you hear like, well, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure this is what you need? And my dad's reaction was the same way. Like, Maddy, if it's up to me, I want you to be home. I want you to be happy. Let's get you better. And that was really cool to hear from my parents, from my advisor. And so from the time I went to his office to being withdrawn from school, it's 10, 15 minutes. Super quick. It was kind of like shocking. Everything worked out with tuition. Like, it just got transferred over because it was right before adder drop, so we didn't lose anything or anything like that. I had housemates living at the house, so the house was taken care of. Everything kind of just lined up how it needed to be. And so I ended up coming home a couple weeks later, and I actually had an opportunity to go to the temple. One of my good friends got sealed in the DC temple. And that was really, really cool and special to go back to DC and see that temple after going through the open house in the summer, and just reaffirming that decision to go through the temple was really cool right before going home. So I got home, and it was really hard. It was really hard because I didn't want to be home, but I knew I had to be for whatever reason. And my mom and I both made a decision early on. Okay, we're going to hit a temple, at least once a week, every week that we're home. And I wouldn't have had that if I was in Virginia. Because like I said, BV's small town, nearest temple is either DC or Raleigh, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So it's a 4-hour drive south or a 3-hour drive north. Mm-hmm. And then Richmond will be done, I think in May is when the open house will be. But yeah, it's just like I didn't have that access that I do here. And so making that goal with my mom and then ended up finding a temple group with friends made a huge impact. I started doing therapy online, and that same friend I told you about in the beginning, Alyssa, who bore a testimony about going through the temple, who lives with me, before I left, was telling me about her experiences with therapy and how much of a blessing it was. And 2 of her biggest pieces of advice was, 1, don't be afraid to shop around for therapists, because not every therapist works for everyone. And 2, I highly encourage you seek out someone who is a member of the church. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that. So I did therapy online through BetterHelp. Great app, super nice, accessible. And filling out that whole questionnaire mentioned, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I'd love someone that can understand and discuss this religion. Because I have a missionary out. I just went through the temple, spirituality has always been a big part of my life. I didn't want to have to re-explain everything as I'm crying through my struggles, Yeah. So, they set me up with a therapist, and the first therapist I got has been amazing. She's been my one. I didn't have to shop around, which I'm grateful for, but she's a member, lives in St. George. She's amazing. And it was so cool and so beneficial to have her, because the impact of her being a member and associating my therapy quote assignments with religious ties and spirituality made such a huge difference, I think, in my, mental health recovery of kind of bouncing back to feeling like myself again. Mm-hmm. And so I discovered I struggle with some anxieties and some minor depression things, not anything huge, but things that were deterring me from living my everyday life. And she, every week, talking about, okay, we can work on meditation. You do know a form of meditation is prayer. Or, okay, your assignment this week is you have to go to the temple and you have to ask a specific question to an answer you want to receive. Mm-hmm. And just having that kind of coincide with therapy was amazing. I keep saying the word amazing because it really was amazing. It was so awesome to have that and her example, and to be able to talk about missionary and religion and church and YSA and temple and navigating everything, and her understanding what I was talking about was so cool. And I'm so grateful for her. And I really owe her so much of this growth, because I don't think I'd be as confident and happy as I am now to go back to Virginia had I not had this experience with her specifically. So anyway, this is all a long story of why I'm home now. But the temple, again, really just brought me to this whole understanding of who I was and kind of see myself from a bird's eye view in God's eternal perspective and see, you know what? This semester is just a dot on my timeline for eternity. Mm-hmm. And God knows me. God would not lead me astray. I know that he wants nothing but goodness for me and all of his children. And, you know, I'm so grateful that he made me as aware as I was to have made that decision to go home. Because like I said, I mean, even if my mom were to be like, hey, Maddie, I think you need to be coming home, I'd be like, psh, no, I'm fine. You know? But I really think the temple helped me to see me outside of Maddy Fisher, but God's daughter. And so the temple is just so powerful. And I'm so grateful that I've had almost every single week to go to the temple. And I just went twice with my parents this week, hit a couple different temples and did endowment sessions. And it's just so cool to relearn the teachings. And like I said, so familiar. It's not anything that's like foreign to me. These are teachings I've learned since I was a kid. I mean, child of God, to him, a primary song I've sung since I could talk, you know?
Right.
And, having those experiences and amazing friends to turn to and just talk about religion with. I mean, Lucas Hansen, Caitlin Vance, Brian Anderson, that was kind of our go-to group going to the temple. And then we had a few more other kids that were Brighton kids that came with us a few other times. But having just a solid group of great friends and building those friendships in a whole other way that we, like, Lucas and I were never that close. You know, we went to elementary school through high school together, but, you know, I knew him as Rachel's boyfriend, you know, like that's kind of how I knew him. And the kid that ate worms in third grade, you know, like,
of course, Lucas.
Right. Did. Yeah. And so it's been really cool to kind of rebuild almost like a solid foundation of friendship with these people and see them and their growth over these 2 years and where our lives are at and just our values and knowing that I can have friends in our 20s to just go to the temple every week.
So cool.
So cool. So amazing. And Caitlin's someone that also just decided to go through for herself as well.
It's awesome.
And she's like, she's in the army. She's got her EMT. She's doing, she was just in Thailand teaching English. Like, yeah, right.
They're such good
like just
kids.
Such amazing people with amazing testimonies. And it was just it's been such a powerful experience to have awesome friends, great institute class, and just awesome family and support to go through this year, these past few months to know like God knows me and this is where I need to be. And these are the things I need to do to help prep me for what's to come, to help me figure out that plan, for me to walk down that road with confidence and know that God is leading me in the right direction.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and I'd hope, I know that through this experience, it sounds like, I know you like to have your plan and you have your plan, but
right.
like, hopefully this experience has showed you that his plan's always the best plan.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
You were meant to be here,
yeah.
You know, and to have those experiences with your friends and in our class and with your family. And it's just so cool. And I mean, not to go on about the friends and the Institute experience, but like, it really is like every week, just like, you know, seeing everybody. It's like in Alma when they get back and it's like, they were still my brethren in the Lord, but even better,
right.
You know, no matter what the life's courses have taken, you know, what people are doing, just to have that community of just love and support is unreal.
Yeah.
You know, and I agree. The perspective added by the temple is incredible. That just like amplifies those relationships.
Absolutely.
And and you just wait for your future family. It does that just exponentially.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool. I don't know. And I don't know, maybe I'm looking too hard at this, but like, I really felt it when you were talking, like you'd gone through the temple and then you're like, you just had like this, you were feeling off. And, you know, talking to your mom and you're like, I just want to come home. And I think it was the parallel so cool to me,
right,
of you. Like, I feel I'm going to get ready for the temple. I want to go to the temple. You go to the temple. And then it's almost like immediately the Lord's like, okay, now you need to go to your other home.
right.
You know? And I just thought that was awesome. And I hope that our children feel that way someday. Like, I just want to go home. I want to go home. I hope they feel that way about the temple. And I think that's probably one of the best things about the temple is like the teachings are not anything groundbreaking. Like you said, it's stuff we've known since we were a kid, but one of the things about it that has real power for me is that it does just feel like going home, my spiritual home in a sense. And I hope that our kids feel that way. Like, I just want to come home. And your mom wasn't, you know, and the counselor, your academic advisor wasn't like, oh, well, why? It was just like, no, come. Like, what do you need?
Yeah.
Let me help you.
Yeah.
Like, what a perfect Christ-like and heavenly godly example from your parents.
Yeah.
You know, from your friends, even your academic advisor. That's exactly what he would do.
Right.
And when we act like him, it shapes our lives, even if it's an unexpected path.
Yeah.
And he can make beautiful things of that.
Yeah.
I loved you sharing that. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, I don't know if there was anything else you really wanted to share, but I'm dying to ask you, like, you know, who knows who's going to listen to this, but if there is anything that you could say to any friends or anybody out there, you know, about Jesus Christ and his gospel and how it's impacted you, like, what would you want to say?
Man, you know, I just want to thank everyone, you guys included, for being a part of this journey and continue to be a part of my life. I know that Christ lives. I have no doubt in my mind that through him, we can all just be happy and love one another and find joy no matter what we're facing. I'm so grateful for the many interactions I've had with random strangers, and the conversations that have led to Christ and that spirit that he's brought into my life. And I'm grateful for those friendships I've made through that as well. But yeah, I just want to reiterate that Christ is love and Christ is so good. And whether that's going to the temple or just being kind to your neighbor, seeking him will never lead you astray. And I'm so glad I had the temple to help guide me in that way, to guide me home and to guide me to a happier, more settled state of mind, to feel more at peace with life and the plan and trusting in his plan for me. And I just want to encourage anyone and everyone to seek him, to seek love, and seeking Christ too. Like you said, it's so hard to hear about people that leave the church and don't seek Christ, whether that's in another religion or whatever it is, because Christ isn't everything good.
Yeah.
Everything good comes from God. And he sent his son, Jesus Christ, to help guide us, to lead us, to understand what we can do in this life with physical bodies as human beings, to prepare ourselves for heaven and eternity and reuniting with our Heavenly Father. And so I just want to encourage you to love. Just love and be kind, and don't stress or worry so much about the unknown, because I have spent way too much time doing that myself. But knowing that every step you take, everything good is from him, and he will not lead you astray, and he loves you without any end, and he will forever be there to hold your hand and guide you and watch you walk the path. I mean, you guys are parents. You know how special it is to watch your kids grow up and navigate life. And it's also hard, right? Because they're learning things and facing fears and challenges. And He is our Heavenly Father, and He's doing that same thing. He's watching us, He's guiding us, and He sent His Son down to help us navigate this crazy life that we're living. And so don't let the burdens of day to day drag you down, or let the fears of the unknown drag you down, because there's so much good to look forward to and so much good that you can find in everyday living, whether that's going to the temple with a couple friends, or talking about Jesus in your living room, or, listening to a great song. There's a lot we can do and we can share with one another. And I really, again, just want to reiterate how grateful I am for you guys and this podcast, and what a blessing it is to share just your testimonies every week. That is so powerful and so cool, because, regardless of who is listening or how many people are listening, it's affecting someone, and it's affected me, and I'm so grateful. And I know that Christ lives, and I know that this gospel is true, and I really would not be as good as I am and continue to being without Him. So yeah, I guess we'll say things in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
That's my little testimony. So
thanks, Maddy. Well, and just us even being together tonight is just further evidence that He is in our lives. I don't think any of us could have imagined that, all those years ago when you were sitting in my seminary class,
right,
that you'd be here on our couch in my house.
Hey,
tonight,
I always knew you'd be in my life, whether that's my wedding or what.
Oh, Maddy, that's super sweet.
It's true.
Yeah, so thank you. It's just cool to see even years in advance that He is working behind the scenes for our happiness, our growth, and how He's put us in each other's lives. And I just feel so grateful I could have never imagined 10 years ago, before I was a seminary teacher, or even however long it's been, 7 years ago, that it would be just this rich, and that I'd feel so blessed, and that He would be in my life in these ways. And the only way that has come to fruition and to be apparent to me is just by holding on and keeping the faith, even when it's been hard. And just like we were talking about in class today about Alma 32, and nourishing even just that little seed. Sometimes it can take years to really start producing fruit, for a tree to produce fruit. But once it does, if you consistently work at it and nourish it, that fruit just keeps coming.
Yeah.
And it's so delicious. It's going to take work. You have to, we have a peach tree that is not in our yard anymore because we totally neglected it.
Right.
It got diseased and it died. It did produce fruit at one point, and now it's literally not even there. We had to cut it out. And I just feel very fortunate and blessed that to be tasting of some of that fruit of Jesus Christ. And that's ultimately why we're doing this, is to hopefully share some of that, because this, having Maddy here talking about this, our family, just even the small little tastes of His goodness. Like you said, maybe it's just a good song that touches our heart, or a kind word someone says. That stuff is so delicious and so good. We just have to share it, because once you've tasted it, you don't want anything else.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I wanted to say thank you to you, because here you are thanking us, but I feel like we're the ones that have been totally edified tonight. And you can't see Maddy right now, but there's an actual glow coming off of her, and it's not just the light above your head, but seriously, there is a definite spiritual effervescence coming from you, for sure, that I honestly, I'm humbled by. listening to your story and hearing your experiences and just the things that you've done in your young age. We are old, but we're starting to feel really old. But like, really, you were a great example to us. And thank you so much for making the trek to come out here and talk with us on one of your final nights home with your family. We'll get you home really soon. But as I was sitting here listening to you and just feeling of your goodness and how amazing you really are, like, I just couldn't help but think about all of the many people that are going to be blessed by hearing your story, and just by how open and honest and candid you were too. Like, you weren't sugarcoating life. Like, yeah, you're a disciple of Christ and you go through hard things. If you choose to follow Jesus, life is still going to be hard. Right. And I think you illustrated that really nicely of how he helps you through that. So thank you for that. And I hope that anyone who's listening that is maybe struggling, going through whatever trial, maybe it's similar to what Maddy went through, or maybe it's something totally different. We hope that you hear that overarching message that, like she said, he's there for you. He sees you. He knows you. And I just loved that. I loved when you said that about, like, I knew myself outside of Maddy Fisher. I knew myself as a daughter of God. And that really hit me in the heart. And that was a good reminder to me. So thank you for that. And gosh, I just wish we could keep you here all night, honestly.
Just keep talking.
I'll be back.
No, really. Like, and one final thing that I just wanted to add is just that I hope if anybody's listening, like President Nelson back in 2018, I think it was, gave the promise to the youth that they had the capacity to be wiser, stronger, and better than any previous generation. And you are hearing that in part fulfilled tonight with Maddy. And Maddy is incredible. She's glowing right before us, but there are countless other kids like her. We are in good hands. The world, the church, our families, our future children, our friends, our neighbors are in good hands because there are people like Maddy Fisher out there. And so we hope that her stories touched you tonight, and we hope that you just feel of his love and just know that it's going to be okay. Even if God's plan is maybe a little different than yours, we all would testify that it's going to be okay and that he's going to have your back even years and years in advance before those problems even hit your doorstep. It's been prepared. It's going to be okay. There will be people there. There will be words that are said, influences that are there that will make the difference, and it's going to be all right. So with that, Maddy, again, thank you. And thank you all for listening. And please go ahead and please share this, subscribe to it, all that stuff. But especially let's get Maddy's story out there because it needs to be shared. It needs to be shared. So until next time, thanks everybody.
Thank you guys so much.